5-day period, I was rejected by 4 NFL teams. Think about your worst week. What does that look like for you? And more importantly, how do you respond to such challenges? I went to work, Cowboys called, I signed with the Cowboys. I was on their team. Cowboys in the house. I was on their team in 1989. When the season was over, Jimmy Johnson says, I don't think you can play in the NFL, kid. We're not going to sign you back. Does anybody remember how bad Dallas was in 1989? We were 1-15. I was like, you guys have never won a Super Bowl. I'm out of here. I leave and they win 3 Super Bowls. But the point is this, and this is what I'm trying to get to. I believe these FASCO moments, or these rejections or no's or challenges, these are some of the best mentoring moments. These are some of the best coaching moments if you embrace the lessons. And people that truly want to be the best as far as leadership, they always recognize there's areas for improvement. They recognize their weaknesses. And one of the best ways I have learned to respond to this is with curiosity. I like to ask, why did this happen? What can I learn from it? How can I turn this into an opportunity? I didn't blame someone else. I started focusing on myself. What can I do? Where can I make improvements? And as leaders setting the example, I encourage you to go there first. See where you can make improvements before you start pointing the finger at someone else. And then once you figure it out, dude, you gotta be ready to do the work. You gotta be ready to do the work. Blah, 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 do the work. Success, achievement, accomplishing your goals, leading your team to higher ranks, it's a beautiful thing when it happens. But nobody's going to give it to you. You gotta be willing to do the work. My track coach, Phil Walden, used to say this. I was 15 years old. He'd go, blah, blah, blah. He would do it like that, blah, blah, blah. Do the work. Because these athletes would come up with these excuses in terms of why they didn't run or why they didn't show up or why they didn't do this. He was like, no, 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 you do the work, and when you do it with consistency, the results take care of themselves. So as leaders, I'm not talking about wearing yourself out, working 24/7, neglecting your health, your nutrition, your family. No, I'm talking about doing the smart work. And this is what I learned in the NFL. The difference between making it to the NFL and staying was your ability to work on the fundamentals. Do the work on the basics. Do the work on our skills. I didn't share this, but when I retired, I became owner of some medical companies in Kansas City, and then I ran a fitness equipment company in Atlanta, and I was the West Coast sales manager. I worked with 150 stores. And the thing that I noticed was that a lot of people did not spend time working on their skills, working on the basics, working on the fundamentals. See, in the NFL, that was automatic. I was a wide receiver, right? There's 4 ways to catch a ball. The diamond, pinky, your body, or one hand. I would spend hours after hours after hours putting in the work, perfecting the skill, catching with the diamond. When I got to the NFL, I'd say, you know what? I've been catching the ball since age 15. I don't need to work on this. When I got to my last year, I'd say, man, I've had a successful 9 years. I don't need to continue working on this. Continue to work on it. So my thought or challenge for all of you is, how much time do you spend as leaders working on the fundamentals, working on the basics? Because the basics are the basics. They don't change. We just have to decide how often we want to work on them. And when you do a little research, because I was doing some research, I was like, what are the most popular skills for leaders? Number 1 or number 2 was communication. How much time do you put in working on your communication skills? How much time do you spend improving them, enhancing them, getting better, being better at connecting and understanding your team members, or maybe even helping them developing their why? Or do you have this mentality of, I don't need to work on this anymore? Let me say this. In the NFL, it wasn't just about being good. We wanted to master the skills. And mastery is all about practice. You gotta be willing to put in the work. You gotta be willing to put in the practice. You gotta be willing to put in the time. And sometimes you gotta be willing to be bad enough long enough until you get good. And then when you get good, you continue to work on those skills and you continue to perfect them. So the question is, are you willing to commit to do the learning, the growing, the failing, the innovating, all the things that it's going to take? Because remember, you set the example for your team. Let me tell you this. When I got to the NFL, you quickly learn something. Everyone is talented. And so you realize that when talent meets talent, talent's not enough. So as NFL players, we had to do more. We had to do something extra to make the team. It's a good reminder that in any competitive environment, whether it's sports, business, or life, natural ability is not what's going to take you there. And I know there's a lot of talented people in here. So my question to you, what are you doing daily to strengthen this team? Think about that. Well, here's a quick tip, and this is what I learned when I saw the parity. It was all about making those 1% incremental improvements. Making simple improvements in my game every day was a goal. Here, here. And that was the difference between whether you made the team or not, or whether you were an asset to the team or a liability. And ultimately, that's how I want you to think. How can you strengthen this team? And remember, everybody in here, you're a leader in some capacity. And what do we know about leaders? Well, here's what we know. Let's go here and talk about track and field. Any track and field fans in here? Anybody love track? I see one right there. A few. I love track and field. I love watching it more than football. Now, I was a long jumper and hurdler, but what I loved about the long distance run or races is this. When you see these long distance races, often they will have a runner in the front. They call him the rabbit. And the rabbit's job is to set the pace for the other runners. And they will run at a faster pace at the beginning. And the goal is that they create so much momentum that it pulls the other runners along, and then they drop out of the race halfway through. But if they did their job, these other runners are running at a fast clip. And they can run a PR, or maybe they're trying to qualify for the Olympics or World Championships. As leaders, you're the rabbit. But you don't drop out of the race, because leaders lead from the front. They set the pace. They set the standard. They set the tempo for the rest of the team. So if you want your team members to raise the bar of their performance, leaders do that first. And you set the standard of excellence and consistency. Because if you do it right, you pull the rest of your team members with you, and it can have a huge impact on your business. So to help you do that, I'm going to share a presentation that I call Seize Your Opportunities. I love the word opportunity because I felt that, and as you get to know me better, you're going to see I took advantage of a lot of opportunities. And an opportunity could be anything. Something you have to do, you want to do, or you need to do. You all have an opportunity at this summit to learn more about the company, the direction they're going in, networking and best practices and learning from each other and how you can continue to drive sales. I have an opportunity to present to you as the first guest keynote speaker. And my objective is to establish a framework so that you can maximize your experience here and leverage the knowledge, the information you're going to take in as you're at this event. And there's only one thing that I ask. I want you to take a look in the mirror and be honest with yourself. Evaluate yourself based on what I'm going to share and whatever else you learn, because in the NFL, everything was filmed. Imagine if you were filmed every day in your office. And then you take the film with your boss and they would analyze the film. And then your coworkers come to the room and they would analyze it too. And then you have to go home and analyze it yourself. That's what we had to do. And it was our responsibility to make the corrections, see the flaws, the errors, and make sure we didn't make the same mistakes the next day. Well, you're not being filmed, but I want you to think like that. Take in this information, see how can you use it to become a better leader? How can you use it to strengthen Pearl Vision? So who's ready to grow? Who's ready to be challenged? Who's ready to be inspired? If that's you, I want you to clap 2 times. All right, there's a lot of people in here. We can do better than that. If that's you, I want you to clap 2 times. That's what I'm talking about. All right, so let's go. Let's start here. So you got to get your head in the game. When you talk about going beyond boundaries, going above expectations, raising to new heights, you got to get your head in the game. And I believe this is one of the most perfect metaphors for life. Because every day mentally, we're either defeating ourselves or we're making ourselves champions. We're either in the game of life, leading the charge, or we're sitting on a sideline, whining and complaining about our circumstances. This is something our coaches would say to us all the time because they want us to mentally prepare for the season, for training camp, for the game, because 90% of success we know is right between our ears. And as humans, we all deal with our own self-doubt, fear, excuses, self-limiting belief, negative thinking. And sometimes we allow outside influences to dictate how we think, and it affects our performance. So with this first point, I'm just talking about mindset. Mindset. Mindset is so important in anything you do because it has to do with what you think, why you think it, when you think it, how. It all matters. It's so critical. You could be having a conversation with a customer, a potential customer, a team member, a superior, whatever that one thought is, that one thought, so critical. It either takes you that way or that way. There is no in between. You either have the right mindset during that conversation to bring your best or you don't. And if you don't, it's going to affect your performance, especially when things get challenging, especially when you're uncomfortable. And if you don't have your mindset right, how are you going to be able to perform at your best? If you're leading teams, how are you going to be able to effectively lead your teams? So let's talk about these 2 points. I love this concept. It was developed by Carol DeWitt. Fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. Again, as we talk about these, which one are you? People that have a fixed mindset, they say, they feel their qualities are fixed, their abilities are fixed, they get to a certain point and they won't put in the extra time to improve. And as a result, they don't reach their potential. Their performance becomes stagnant or they go on a decline. But those with the growth mindset, they have the underlying belief that they know that success is connected to learning and growing. And they're willing to keep putting in the work because they know it leads to greater achievement. And these are the ones that are ready for opportunities because they're open and they're curious. And studies say that people that have a growth mindset, they naturally foster qualities like determination, resilience, perseverance, and grit. And they have a work ethic that cannot be interrupted. So if you're someone that struggles with this from day to day, maybe mentally you get some of those negative thoughts. Here's what's always worked for a 5'10", 157-pound wide receiver. You adopt a positive growth mindset. We understand growth, a positive growth mindset. Because when you have a positive mindset, you're not rattled every day. Whatever happens, you're not fazed by it. You wake up every day and you're like, let's go, it's a new day, I'm ready to rock and roll. You see the bright side of everything. And you expect the best to happen. And you also see these as opportunities. And when you have a positive growth mindset, it's fueled by positive self-talk. How you talk to yourself every day will affect your confidence. It will affect your performance and your ability to bring your best. You know how intimidating it was for me initially to be in the huddle with Joe Montana? I remember being in the huddle with Joe the first time. I'm like, that's Joe Montana. I was in 8th grade watching him throw the ball. But now I'm in the huddle with him. And initially, here comes the negative self-talk. Man, this is Joe Montana. He's won 4 Super Bowls. He's an all-pro. He throws to Jerry Rice, who's the greatest ever. And I had to catch myself. No, JJ, you're 6 years in the league. You've played with so many different quarterbacks. You're ready. You're faster than Jerry Rice. I mean, I would feed myself positive talk because if not, that would take me down and out and I wouldn't be able to perform with one of the best. So for you, Let's say maybe you're having a meeting with someone and you're a little uncomfortable and that negative self-talk, you got to flip it. Hey, I got this meeting. We got great products and service. I'm qualified. We're going to take care of this person. You got to feed it right away because it is so important to your success, especially when you're going beyond boundaries, where people don't expect you to go. I talk about this first because I'm like the poster child of mindset. You know why? Because the number one question people ask me about my NFL career is not what was it like to play in the NFL, not what was it like to play with Joe, not what was it like to play at Arrowhead. It's like, wait a minute. How did you play 9 years at 5'10", 157 pounds? I was one of the lightest players during my career. I mean, I'm like one of the lightest players under 160 pounds that's had such a long career. I mean, they used to list me in the program at 180 pounds. My coach would say, I don't want the defense to know how small you really are. But I learned if you run scared, you play scared, you run a lot faster. But seriously, according to the experts, according to the odds, according to my stats, I wasn't supposed to be there. Now, some of you right now might be thinking, man, we had a great year last year. Can we really take it to another level? Can we really tap into these other new markets? Man, I'd rather just keep doing what I'm doing. I don't know, maybe some of those thoughts are happening. But let me tell you what helped me. Point number 2 is I had a very strong why to do this. You have to have a burning desire. A burning desire to achieve what you want. A burning desire means that it's something that resonates in your mind, in your gut. It's all you think about and it drives you every single day. See, I had a burning desire to change my circumstances. See, the experts didn't know I was raised in Northeast Portland in the hood. Raised by a single-parent mom who dropped out of school her junior year. Worked really hard, but we struggled growing up. I wanted more. That was my burning desire. So here's a question for all of you. Even though there's company goals, what is your personal business goal? Everyone in here should have a personal business goal because if you have a personal business goal and you're working towards that, that's going to help you accomplish the number 1 goal. If you don't have a personal business goal, it's like taking a bow and arrow and just aiming at nothing. Nothing to aim for, nothing to shoot for, nothing to gauge your performance, nothing to celebrate. So I want you to think about that right now. What is your personal business goal that's going to help this company? And then, do you have a burning desire? Because understanding this, that's the goal. The reason why that's the goal is just as important. So let's talk about this. Probably one of the most popular leadership points that are being taught throughout the world. Why do you do what you do? Your why is understanding your seed of motivation. Why you get up and do the different things you need to do. You ever thought about that? Why are you in this profession? Why do you want to grow? Why do you want to improve? Why do you want to make a bigger impact? Just because, or I don't know, will only take you so far. Because when you have those wall-kicking moments, it is so easy to slow down, start pointing the finger, making excuses, and not bringing your A game from day to day. To illustrate how important this is, I'm going to share something with you from Bob Schmidt. I love how he describes the why. He says, what if there was a plank, a foot wide, maybe 6 inches off the ground, and I need a parent. You don't have to come up here. Is there a parent out there? All right. What's your name? Alessandro. Okay. Alessandro, so if I offered you $20, would you walk that little plank off the ground that much, that wide? Yeah. He's like, yeah, I'll do it. Give me your money. Okay. Alessandro, let's make it interesting. What if I put that plank between 2 buildings that were 100 stories high and I offered you $20? Would you walk the plank? He's like, no, you're crazy. Nobody's going to do that. All right, let's make it even more interesting. Give me the name of one of your children. Leo. Let's say if Leo is on the end of the building and the building's on fire and flames are looking at the back of his neck. without hesitation. Yes. What's the difference? The motivation, the reason. And that's really the point I'm trying to emphasize, because if that reason is powerful, you're unstoppable. You know how many times I was in a game? I'm this little wide receiver who catches the ball, but sometimes they call X crackback. And I got to go down there and hit the linebacker. And I see 260 pounds, Junior Seau. One of the greatest to ever play, but he's 100 pounds bigger than me. I don't have time to sit there and go, dang, coach, I don't know if I want to do this. Junior's kind of big. No, I strap it up, I run down there, and boom, I hit Junior as hard as I could. Now, Junior would not move at all. But the point is, you saw little 88 the next day doing his job because of the why, to change my circumstances. So if you're sitting there thinking like, okay, this makes sense, but how do you figure out your why? Let me show you. Here's an exercise. We call it peeling the onion. You have to peel an onion to get to the core, get those layers off. You do the same thing to figure out your why. So I was in Chicago about 6 years ago. I was meeting with some people, and all of a sudden, the woman at the table said, hey, JJ, do you have any tips on losing weight? You seem kind of healthy. I was like, let me find out why she wants to lose weight. Why do you want to lose weight? I want to be healthy. Why do you want to be healthy? She said, well, I'd like to be able to get on the ground and play with my daughter. I said, why do you want to do that? She said, well, I just want to be around. What are you talking about? She said, well, my mom died of obesity when I was a child, and I want to make sure I'm around for her wedding. I said, bingo, there's your why. So if you don't want to follow your program, you want to give up, you want to cheat, read that and write it everywhere. But did you see what we did? You have to dig, and you have to be honest. And you can do this with any goal, but the point is, I'm trying to make is this. When the why is strong enough, the process to get there is not a challenge. You will do whatever it takes. So again, think about that reason that you want to be better this year. As a company, why do you want to be number one? Think about that reason. And if you can match your why with the company's why, now you got a dynamite combination there. And why is all this important? Mindset. Why? Because it's still going to come down to doing the work. Blah. You come to events like this, you take notes, you hear different speakers, you write down all this stuff, you're like, oh man, I'm going to blow it up. This is good. Maybe you wrote a couple things for my presentation, like, I'm just going to light this thing on fire. And then you go home and life gets in the way. And you revert back to the habits that maybe didn't serve you well, or the habits that are not going to allow you to hit that ultimate goal you want. Please write down this definition of commitment. Commitment is doing the things you said you were going to do long after the mood you set it in has passed. I'll repeat. Doing the things you said you were going to do long after the mood you set it in has passed. You should be fired up after an event like this. You should be energized. Remember this, enthusiasm is great, but execution is everything. Make sure you go home and execute on the promises and the commitments you'll make at this event.